All right, excellent. Back in the studio, back at the Gratitude Studio, and tonight my guest is Lynne. Thank you so much, Lynne, for coming in, and sharing your story with us.
Thanks, Marcus.
You're welcome. So, when did you first come to Brighton?
So I first moved to Brighton when I was about 22. And it's really funny because it's as if I've done a full circle. Because back in those days, it was mental when I first moved. And I've now ended up moving where I can see that house.
Yeah.
And I can also see Brighton Pier, which was my last overdose attempt. I actually finished it off with throwing myself off the end of the pier. So it's a good, and I can see both of those from my window.
Jeez.
So sometimes I just have to look out the window to think,
And what was that? It must have been the 90s, was it? There was a lot.
It was in 2000, the millennium, just after February, just after the millennium.
Wow. Yeah, Brighton was in the 90s was very hedonistic, and I'm sure it is just as much now, but especially then, the rave scene and club nights and all-nighters. And did you ever get involved in any of that stuff, going out and doing all of that?
Yeah, I mean, my story, I've learned in recovery that, I thought that my addiction and my problems might have started with alcohol and drugs, particularly back in the early 90s, when I was running around a lot of places when I was far too young. And yes, I was very much involved in that. But what I have also learned that the illness that I have, it was very much manifested in me from a young age, like food, eating disorder. Things like I had very mischievous behaviour growing up, like stealing my dad's car and going joyriding, like stealing penny sweets or stealing things for shops that I didn't even want. And I never knew back then that it was all about I just wanted to change my emotions.
Yeah, or get a buzz or something.
Yeah, so thinking that alcohol and drugs were actually my problem, they weren't to some extent. They were the solution to me because I couldn't cope with what was going on inside me. I was always irritable, restless, discontent. And we talk about in recovery about being discontent. For me, I didn't always feel necessarily discontent, but it was just that I was discontent with the way I felt. So and it's been taught to me, I'm dual diagnosis, so... like doing these things to change my emotions would very much lift my state. But when I found alcohol, but it didn't work for me because I would drink a very small amount of alcohol and I would be in blackout. So I knew from a young age that I was allergic to alcohol, but not in the way I've learnt since I've got, on my recovery journey. But because that didn't really work for me, I didn't really like going straight to blackout. And I did like going out. I couldn't see that I didn't consider back then just drinking slightly less. I would still drink the same small amount and I would still end up with the end result of being sick. And that didn't really work for me. So, I very much got into the rave scene and the drug culture. And I can remember going to, it was an all-nighter. It was a Passion or Mantra.
Oh, Passion Mantra.
Stearns days came. I remember going to my first all-nighter and I'd already dabbled with speed before that. And then going on loads of fairground rides. But I went to this all-nighter. The speed, I couldn't get any. And then somebody introduced me to my first pill. And oh, my God, I felt like I had arrived. I really did. And then, and then
back
I started...
in the Doves days.
God,
Turbo Doves, Snowballs.
Snowball was the first one.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently. And then... I can remember going to places like Stearns when I was far too young. And my dad, bless him, like I had been like a child. I'd grown up in Pumpton with a nice house, swimming pool, little village, running around my dad in the countryside. Didn't really do what other kids did, but I was always out with him doing random stuff like fishing and just stuff. And then... he, from a teenager, I found music. I'd always had music as in playing the piano, but I found the rave scene. I was like, yes, I want to dance. And then I found ecstasy. And I remember one night someone saying to me, are you Lynn? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, are you Lynne Knight? And I was like, yes. They were like, are you Lynne Knight from Plumpton? I was like, yes. And they said, my friend Steve, and he said, I think you should go up to the reception because they've just switched all the music off on the underground. I said, Lynne Knight from, go to reception. So I went up there and got a friend to go up there. We were looking and there was police there and stuff. My dad has sent the police to the nightclub to get me.
No.
Well,
How
I
embarrassing.
did not talk to them. Obviously, I hid. I had to deal with that little consequence when I got home the next day. And a bit, oh gosh, yes, he wasn't very happy with me. So there was a lot of antics.
Jeez, that's
Of
me
wanting
heard of that before.
Oh, well,
The
yeah.
embarrassment. Well, that shows how much he loved you, right?
He did.
He
He
didn't want
very
you-
much
yeah.
did. And my poor mother, so from the age of so I was like the kind of child that did extra maths,
Yeah.
extra, piano, all this stuff. And I was so square. And then in year 9, I went from 0 to 60
To
in a matter
100.
of seconds.
Like,
and
I
my
want to experience everything.
poor
Yeah,
dad was just like, what's going on here? So it was just a pretty much war
Yeah.
with my mum playing a referee to try and manage the fallout between the two of us.
Did you have siblings as well, or just the three of you?
So, when later stage in my life, I got very resentful against my parents. Very resentful. But through the recovery journey, I can now see things for what they were. And my mum and my dad, they, she went through 5 miscarriages at really late stages, really late stages. So I had a sister that lived for about 9 hours and she passed. Other ones were born, they weren't alive. Then she had to lay in bed for the summer of 76 to have me.
Oh, wow.
And then they got me.
Oh, how wonderful.
Poor them.
So how long, I was going to say, wow.
And then
Careful
after
what you wish
that,
for, parents.
Yeah. And I made it very interesting for them. And then after me, they told her that she'd never carry a child, like whilst, other than lying in bed. She got pregnant with my brother. Had my brother when he was born, cesarean. She asked to have her tubes cut, and then he passed away when he was about 9 months old. So it was very, very sad for them. So I grew up with, knowing about that. I only have really one memory of him, and then when I was when I was about 20, I found out I've got a sister, half sister, and the incredible thing with that journey is that she came into recovery just as lockdown hit, so about 9 months after me. And so we weren't brought up in the same, the same family, but we're both in the rooms, and so we're sober sisters together.
So did you meet each other in the rooms and find out you were related?
She came to find us. She knew about me. I didn't know about her. She came to find my dad, which she actually found out about because when I was 18, doing one of my antics, I was in Boots, decided to steal a roll-on deodorant that I didn't need, got arrested, ended up going to court. It was in the paper. She saw it in the paper, Lynne Knight from Plumpton. She went to her mum and said, is this my sister? And her mum went, yes. I had the good one. And so she knew where I was and my dad was. And so she came marching down the path one day when I wasn't there and handed my dad a letter. And then they told me.
What a story.
Yeah. And then I had a sister. But the thing was, I always prayed to have a sibling.
Yeah.
But, I knew I loved her straight away. But we still, and this is the thing I've learned in recovery as well. My second sponsor told me this, that when I was going through my steps, she looked at me and she said, I think you've got the same character defects as your dad. And I was just like, wow. And I've actually since come on to think that me, my sister and my dad all have those
similar.
We say defects, but they could be safety coping mechanisms, whatever you wish to call them. But I always wondered why I was so much like my dad, but not. And I never understood how I could be so like him, but so not like him at the same time. And then it was such a revelation to find out. Oh, it's just going bosh, bosh, bosh all the time.
How's your relationship with him now, or with your dad?
So thanks to recovery, I mean, my parents, they never gave up on me. All the things that went on, and I did, financial stuff going down the bin, so many bad decisions that I managed to make along the way. They never gave up on me. And 6 months into recovery, the relationship broke down between
Oh, wow.
myself and my father, which meant then that we didn't really talk for 18 months.
Mm.
And I managed to get myself banned from not only the house, also the drive.
Oh, God.
So when I used to drop the kids off, I'd have to sit at the top of the drive.
Yeah.
My mum would come up to talk to me, and then she'd go back down. And, you know, we can't turn the clock back on these things, but I did, first time around with my steps, I didn't want to make any amends to my parents or to my ex-husband, and my first sponsor at that time thought that was the right thing to do, which it was at that time.
To not? Or
To not.
Yeah.
But when I went through my steps the second time, I had a sponsor that was over 20 years, very any lengths. And I didn't get away with that. So the thing that I'm truly grateful for her for was that she, well, said I had to. So I did start the process of trying to make an amends to my mum. But, you know, her health wasn't particularly good. And I couldn't go into the house. So I never managed to get her out of the house to actually make those amends. But one thing I'm truly grateful for is that sponsor at least started me off to try and do it.
Yeah.
Because my mother ended up, and actually to start with, I was thinking I really didn't want to, so I don't want to make an amends to them. And then all of a sudden she was in hospital one day, and I was just like, you know, humility, bang.
Yeah.
And so I managed to talk my way into Brighton Hospital to see her, and I only saw her for about 5 minutes. And then after that, she then ended up in hospital, went all the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
It lasted 2.5 months, and then she passed.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I never got to make those amends to her. And yeah, for anybody that, you know, is on this journey and might be, you know, messing around over your amends, sometimes we don't get to make them. And you know, if I could turn the clock back, that's one of the things I would change to try and change that.
Yeah. No, yeah, me and you both, you know, there's a lot of things that if we could turn the clock back, we would go and fix, or at least go back and make things right. But the thing is, your intention was to make an amends at the end, and that's for our own healing. That's the important bit, you know. So then after you moved to Brighton, I guess you moved out home, you started living in Brighton.
I moved out of home when I was about 17, 18, in with a boyfriend. And like, so right back then, I'd come to a point where, you know, I'd gone on to be really popular and running around clubbing and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, all my relationships seemed to break down around me with my girlfriends. And I've learned through my recovery journey, I have codependency running, well, whether you want to call it codependency or people addiction, flowing through my veins. So I couldn't be on my own. It was another thing I had. I just couldn't be on my own, restless discontent. So I'd gone off to East Grinstead and moved in with my first long-term boyfriend, because I just couldn't wait to get out of Plumpton.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait to get away from my dad trying to control me and just like try and make sure I was okay. Didn't need any of that. And yeah, so off I went to East Grinstead.
East Grinstead, the town I'm born in.
Is it?
Yeah, I used to go down the Broadway on a Saturday night, or the Crown.
Yes.
Or what was the other one? The Crown, opposite the Crown was the I've forgotten now. With the car park that goes down underneath. Oh,
remember that? Oh yes, they were one of our donation sites for charity.
Are they?
The Dorset.
The Dorset. Yeah, I was there about a month ago.
Oh yeah.
We took my son and said I used to go in here when I was 18. He was like, oh, wow. It looked a lot different then in '88. But yeah, Tinita Tikaram used to go on the jukebox. It was number one. I still remember. Show my age now. But yeah, so Grinstead, eh? And were you there a long time?
So I was there until. So I was there, and yeah, my first long-term boyfriend and his mum were quite instrumental helping me, because when I left college, I'd got a place to go to university to study music, and I knew I wasn't going to do any work. I'd managed to seriously get through my GCSEs without doing anything, and then A-levels were a bit more difficult, but the music, you know, I'd done well in. And then my dad really wanted me to go to university, and there was bribes of brand new cars, this, that, and the next. But I didn't. I got a job, and then Guy helped me a lot. with work. And so I was working in travel, and then moved over to be an advertising sales manager for a local newspaper, selling advertising to motor dealers and property
Was that
agents.
in here?
No, it was in East Grinstead.
Oh, in
With
East Grinstead, yeah.
Was it the East Grinstead Herald?
Oh,
East
yeah,
Grinstead
yeah, I
something.
remember that.
Yeah, for that group.
Yeah,
And
East
then the
Grinstead
Surrey
Courier.
Mirror group. And
Yeah.
this is where a massive first whacking consequence came in, which was getting done for drink driving.
Oh,
And so, and that was interesting because I wasn't even driving. I wasn't even in my car, but we're in the parked up in the entrance to the tip in East Grinstead. Yeah, and I'd done a double dropped a couple of pills. I was driving with a bottle of Budweiser between my legs.
Yeah.
I stopped to pull over because I wanted to be sick, and then a little police car going up the road, turned around, came back, and yes, and then that was no driving license.
Nice.
Which meant no job. Well, it didn't mean no job because I was working in Reigate. That's where the company was based, and they said I could stay doing telesales. But obviously you can't drive a company car, can you, when you've got no driving licence? Managed to wangle it so they didn't put it in the paper.
Yeah.
And
Well done.
and then so I decided to leave, and I decided to try IT recruitment. And so I made the move, and then I met the man I then was married.
Yeah.
And that was like an atomic bomb had gone off. I met this man. He was older than me. He was one of the managers in the office. I don't know if you know the industry somewhat, or those kinds of industries where it's very work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
We were starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, staying there till 7:30 at night. But then there's credit cards going behind the bar.
Yeah.
You drink, you have your hangover at work. There's a lot of cocaine going on. And but we worked, we worked, and a lot of money's to be earned in that industry, and it's very bang, 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 money, money, money. And and a lot of my addiction runs through with work.
Yeah.
So the long hours and all that stuff did really suit me. And that's when I first got introduced to daytime drinking. So I didn't drink in the daytime, and, going out, taking clients out for business lunches, which, I started off working on the BBC account.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and, going up there, taking the lunches and the this and the contractors. But it was that was the industry, and I cannot blame my issues on that industry. But boy, did I ramp up!
Yeah.
So the music's gone from college. I'd always done a lot of fitness, so that I realised looking back now had really kept a handle on my undiagnosed ADHD. Yeah. And it's interesting because the first drug that I had to give up was speed. Yeah. Then and then when I did ecstasy, and then it heavily went into alcohol and cocaine. And funny enough, they think I've got ADHD. So, it all kind of mingles in. But when I met my ex-husband, it was like an atomic bomb. He had we just ran around. There was no boundaries, no one telling him I couldn't do anything. Yeah. Was he quite hedonistic
and he was fuel to the fire? You two were up and running?
Literally, there was no no's. We could just do what we want when we wanted.
Wow.
And it was, we had the finances to warrant that. And, to start with, it was brilliant. It was so brilliant to be free, and just do. But as these things do, they can turn on you quite quickly. And, I often think now, was it love, was it addiction? I think it was both, actually. Yeah. I think it was both. But it started me off on this journey with him, which, parts of it weren't great, but parts of it were. Because
were there like situations you got yourselves into that you weren't expecting?
Many
whoa,
situations.
This has got a bit far.
And we did what a lot of... I can't say whether he's an alcoholic or not. I can only diagnose myself. But I ended up, manoeuvring life. We then went into headhunting, or he did first. I then started having children, got addicted to that. Hence, I've got 4 daughters.
4 beautiful daughters, I might add.
4 daughters. And, and life just really took off. I then encouraged him to, let's set up our own business, headhunting business. And so... Wow. So we did all this stuff, but, what I could see now, what in a normal world would have been the brilliant idea.
Perfect life, yeah.
Actually for us didn't turn out to be that way. And so through the years with businesses, we'd go loads of money, pull it all down. Loads of money, pull it all down. Loads of money, pull it all down. And I could never understand how two people that are very good at what they do would build up, people working this, next minute's gone. Up, down, up, down. And I'd always come up with solutions on how to dig our way out of this, dig our way out of that. There was always a strategy to get ourselves out of these things. But now what I've learned is it's like I was powerless over alcohol, and other substances. But it was the second part. It was that my life had become unmanageable, and I didn't understand that part until finding myself in the rooms much later in life. I never looked at the unmanageability of everything and how you can go from here to here to here to here. Just doesn't make any sense. But that side of the illness, it really, ripped through life a lot. And I'd have these reoccurring dreams always that someone was chasing me, and they've stopped now, thankfully.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? Wow. So up to that point, it's quite interesting how, I guess, you left this kind of sleepy village, experienced a bit of Brighton, and then you kind of went to East Grinstead. Obviously, you met your partner, and then had what, from the outside, looks like a perfect life, right? Successful businesses and stuff, but then also alongside that is the kind of addiction in the background, pulling strings, maybe screwing things up, or because I can relate to that kind of lifestyle. What happened next then? What's the next thing?
So I had my 3 daughters, and everything on the outside looked great, but then the financial situation, I hadn't realised quite how bad it had got. So I came up with a great idea. Let's relocate to Spain. Because by that point, we were recruiting within the software industry for US software companies predominantly. And we were recruiting pretty much 75% of our business was in Europe, Middle East and Africa. So at that point, with the 1.65 exchange rate, we were having to convert to England, and money was just, I didn't want to. I think Dan came to me and said about remortgaging the house, and I looked and thought, no, let's not. Let's sell up. So we sold up, and we went to Spain. And I thought that this would solve things. Got a big villa on the side of a mountain. Kids went to a beautiful little nursery down the road, set up business. Started to, so we were so financial on paper, we were so much better off. But oh my God, what a place to go, thinking that you're going to actually
what part of Spain?
Calm down. Well, I decided. I mean, it was to do with the infrastructure. We needed somewhere that we could, run the business and stuff from home, and out there the back then, probably still now, Telefonica and all that we took a villa on the basis that it had a Telefonica mast.
Right.
Then when we moved in, you might have the mast, you can't connect to it.
Oh, Jesus.
Because they'd built extra houses, but anyway, do your research.
That's your key connectivity for business.
So that was interesting, but we worked out there running the business, but it was mental in the end. That's where my illness really took off, and I can remember when I was 29, off the back of another all-night bender. I remember just thinking, there's something really desperately wrong with me. And I'd actually taken my first overdose attempt when I was 14, and my other ones started much later than this. But I can remember that day thinking, there's something really wrong with me. And I went, one of my friends, I said to her, I really need some help. I need some help. Something really wrong with me. I don't know what to do. I need some help. And the mistake I made was that when we'd gone to Spain, we made friends with people that drank and used like we did. So, we were in the big villa and this and that, and the family house. And this and that. I mean, from the outside, it looked perfect. And so she said to me, look around you. Look at the life we're all living, And then I felt really bad. I felt desperately like I was ungrateful for what I had at that point. And I couldn't see back then that, we'd managed to just position ourselves with people exactly the same as us. So I didn't find any help right then.
How were you beginning to feel, like you said?
Oh, just like I was dead.
Dead inside.
Hell. Yeah. How was these things like happening all the time? Especially out there, like we met people that had run is it GBL? I always say it wrong. That kind of scene.
GBL.
The
GHB.
GHB.
Yeah.
I always call it the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well,
Never
actually,
done that.
maybe certain people worked out, learned how to make it.
Okay.
And that became a huge part of the
Really?
story as well, thrown
Wow.
in with a lot of other stuff. And it was just, I think it's like aloe cleaner and caustic soda and other stuff. And then you decide to drink it, you know, the insanity in that.
No.
But anyway, life was taking a real toll. So then you got the alcohol, you go up with the cocaine, then you bring yourself down with that stuff. And then it's just, it was not nice at all.
When you lose touch with reality,
Reality
and forget
was
what day it
going.
is.
But you know, we were managing to still work. We had, people doing stuff, and I managed back then to negotiate myself off of the phones. My phone issues had started to already come up, and I'd managed to come up with a solution around that to headhunt through switchboards using email formats. Built a whole database doing that kind of.
Is that so you didn't have to chat?
Yeah.
But that's the recruitment, because good ones are really good. They're good on the phone. They call you up and they hook you.
My
like that.
ex-husband is brilliant, but he knows his stuff as well.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a good and some of the other recruiters when they don't know what they're talking about. So he really did, and I really knew how to find the stuff on LinkedIn. So, you know, it was a perfect match. And then we had people like resourcing from home. It was perfect.
Wicked.
The model was perfect, but it's not when it's being overseen by, well, definitely myself. You know, my work addiction went into it, but on the other side, there wasn't a work addiction. It was other addictions. And so it started falling. And I remember, let's just say, we kind of ended up in another area out there that was quite criminal, quite very glamorous, lot of money, but quite a criminal world. And so to cut a long story short, it kind of ended one day with we were in the middle of moving from one place to this absolutely huge, massive place on a cliff, and we were right in the middle of, you know, put the money down list and stuff, and I was waiting on money to be paid legally, and there was other stuff, and it all fell down. Literally, there was like guns and death threats involved. So
with the underworld.
So we literally packed up, left, moved back to England,
Wow.
and then we were homeless.
Oh, God.
Homeless.
To go from a mansion.
So we went. Well, we didn't move. We hadn't quite moved in, but don't get me wrong. The place we were ordering was great, and 10,000 square meters of land pool, there's a lot going on. But we ended up in a bedsit in. Funnily enough, we got placed in Brighton, and I told the children that we were on holiday because we were in that bedsit we were there for a couple of months in one room, 5 of us with an ensuite.
Gosh, that must have been tough.
How can life just go dink to dink? But in my world, suffering with addiction issues, it's very easy for things like that to happen. They do, and it did. So there we go, rocketed back to the UK.
Jeez.
Homeless, with the contents of our car.
Yeah, wow. Gosh, yeah, so that just goes to show you how fast things can change. But it's interesting to me that you, even in Spain, you had that feeling inside that you were like, the money was there, the work was there, everything should be perfect. But inside you were like, not really happy. Yeah.
Dead. It was hollow.
It's a horrible, I've been there.
Throughout my whole life, I thought my outsides don't match my insides. They match a little bit better now, but I'm still working on it. I come across as a very outgoing, bubbly person, and I am. That's not lying. But inside, I'm really shy. Yeah. Really shy. And my father brought me up to be like a boy. He wanted me to look after myself for the right reasons. Yeah. And I think that's what alcohol helped me with. It helped me to react in the anger. Yeah. I had walls around me that if any man had like even tried to come, so thinking back on it, any man that would be normal there's no way he would have come near me.
Because you were giving those vibes.
Yes, I was like just volatile, crazy, wild wanted to party, if it was Lynn's
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
or whatever, and I just very much ran around with that attitude. And it was, if someone shouts at me, fight back in anger. You know, there's no hanging around to be nice or loving and kind and tolerant.
Yeah,
I was basically running on a level. Somebody described to me, I learnt this in the mental health service, that basically I was pretty warm to hot water all of the time.
Wow.
So it would only take one little thing and I'm
Spark
boiling.
and you're off, yeah.
And like through my recovery journey and my mental health journey, I've learned how to bring the temperature of my water down to just so now I kind of go from like lukewarm up. So like when things happen, I'm not straight up to anger anymore.
How would you say you've done that? Has that been through like meditation?
Yeah,
or...
meditation has been a massive part. Prayer and meditation. Which were something that when I came to my first meeting and I heard the God word and I looked around and thought, these people are seriously unhinged. What are they talking about? Well, I knew what they were talking about. I thought it was doom and gloom when the meeting was going on, even though I could hear, I didn't want to. No. So I spent the whole meeting judging away.
So I'm not the same. That's
in my
not
head.
Me.
Yeah, no. I was thinking they're all like talking about the birds coming up in the morning. We all know that one. I was thinking they all sound desperately sad. And then at the beginning and the end of the meeting, they're all happy. They want my number. They want to give me a hug. I don't think so somehow. And I just thought, this lot are nuts. And then they started off with the God thing. Well, I don't believe in God. And then later down the line, when I heard about the prayer and the meditation, I don't think so. And it took me until I did my steps a second time to bring the meditation in, because quite frankly, I thought, I'm a single mother of 4 kids. I'd forgotten the point I'd had my children taken off of me, you know, right down the road. And I'm being told that I need to pray to a God I don't believe in, and I need to meditate. Well, how is me sitting in a chair when I couldn't even sit still, trying to meditate, going to fix my crippling cocaine, alcohol, food, people, you know, terrible relationships. How on earth is that going to help me? You know, I am, have you not, my story is much worse than anyone else's. And look at all this stuff that everyone's done to me. It's all their fault. It's got nothing to do with me. And so I held off on that one till I got my link sponsor. And when I started to try, and it's a meditation practice. Like, I didn't have to sit there and be zen
and be perfect
and levitating within half an hour. You know, I had to start very simple. And there's so many different ways to meditate. You know, for me, I have to have the music or binaural beats or gongs or whatever it might be. But at the beginning of lockdown, I started to really persevere with it, and it has proven to be absolutely life-changing for me. If I don't get up, pray, meditate, do my morning routines, it's pray, meditate, gratitude list, and I do my nightly imagery in the morning before I get out. Well, I do get out of bed, but I don't do anything.
Before you engage with
That's got to
the
be
world.
done before I engage with the world. And I'm not perfect, but I've learned the hard way that when I don't practice that routine, my life starts going, well, I start going chaotic inside, and then everything starts going even more chaotic
slipping
around me. And my recovery journey hasn't been, it's not been a quiet one. So I've learned, if I can keep my water like coolish from doing these things, life goes an awful lot better.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing with the meditation. It's like gives you a bit of breathing space, almost like you were saying. Some days I feel very angry, and the slightest thing would tip me over the edge. But if you've had that time to meditate in the morning, it's like driving. If you're a passenger in a car and the driver's too close to the car behind, you're uncomfortable, but you can't kind of relax because you feel like you need to brake and you're not driving. But when you meditate, it's like giving that a bit of space.
That's a good analogy.
So if you see a roadblock coming, a big problem, instead of going, oh my God, and losing the plot, you just think, okay, well, hold on, this is going to be stressful. How do we deal with this? And instead of letting the emotion take control, and I'm really angry about this, that doesn't solve anything. But for me anyway, I find it, if I have been meditating, it gives me a bit more room to actually brace before the impact and to not panic and think, well, it's fine. Yeah, so
it lets God in, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like pause when agitated, not perfect, that's
Yeah.
it. But yeah, through practicing, because we get to practice a day at a time, don't we? We don't have to be perfect. That's another
I'm a
thing.
million miles away
I
from
thought I
perfect.
had to be perfect.
Yeah.
I really did, and I exhausted myself trying to live a perfect life. And I always laugh because it, like in the last, since I started on the recovery journey, I've worked so hard just to be me.
Yeah.
And I was me all along, but I just didn't know who me was, and I'm still learning who
Still finding yourself.
me is.
Yeah.
But just to find out that I don't have to be perfect, it was just like a weight off my shoulder. It's like, oh, I thought everything has to be perfect. Everything's got to be perfect. I've got to be perfect. You know, that whole mentality.
That old mentality,
ding,
isn't
ding,
it?
ding, ding. Yeah. Can't possibly just be vulnerable or just be, and like that, asking for help. I thought asking for help was, people that ask for help is a weakness.
Pitiful. It's what you
don't
think.
do things like that. You like sort it out myself, sort it out myself, sort it out. I've got walls. I'll sort this out. I'll sort this out. I'll sort this out. I will sort this out, until I realised I can't. Like, not when I was dealing with, not when I realised that towards the end, probably a lot. I say towards the end, probably not towards the end, probably from the beginning, actually, I was drinking and using against my own will.
Well, I totally can understand that, because I think a lot of people who, like alcoholics, they're not drinking because they want to. They're past that point. You start off having a casual drink, then it becomes a regular drink for most people. And then it's a drink you don't want to have, but it just sustains you, you know, and the same for any type of drug. That's, you know, from the people I've spoken to.
Well, it just, my issue was because I didn't get up in the mornings and need a drink straight away in the mornings unless I've been
still
carrying
going
on for days. And that's what I thought an alcoholic was. I thought an alcoholic was, you know, you've got vodka bottles hidden everywhere, that you're getting up, you're drinking all day, even though I was drinking daily. That's the insanity. And because, you know, and I see this illness, it doesn't discriminate. Doesn't matter what your economic status is. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, what your sexual preference is. It does not matter. It can affect anyone. You could have no job, you can be homeless, or you can be a rock star, or you could be a nurse or a doctor or a police officer. It doesn't discriminate. It just is. And that's what I had difficulties with, because I compared myself. I chose to go to meetings and think, oh, well, I haven't injected heroin. Or I was never an intravenous user. So I'd pick on those things and think, well, I haven't done that. Like, not looking on like what I'd been doing and what I'd, you know, and it's that grandiose side of it. And I didn't realise the true meaning of grandiose, because grandiose isn't just that I was feeling better than, it's actually feeling less than at the same time. It's both angles. I was doing some work recently where I had to look that up, and I didn't realise it's actually both ends of the scale.
Right, grandiose
just means that we differentiate ourselves from being on the level of that person, which I always thought that that's looking down, but it's not. It's from. So I was always either too good or not good enough. You know, I wouldn't tell them the not good enough bit either. And that's how the state that I would live in. And all the time I'm living in that state, it doesn't change my position. So all the time I'm judging somebody else, what they are or they're not doing, which from the whole of my marriage was my husband, because I thought he had much more of an issue than I did. And whilst I merrily sat in the state of, well, look at him, I'm the one that's like doing the kids and doing this, it's all his fault, I didn't see that I was trailing along in the background and I was just as bad. Yet I was just trying to control him. And
then resentments grow, and a lot of it's our own doing, but we can't see that because we obviously are perfect, and you know.
And it's I mean, a lot of stuff went on that, you know, shouldn't have gone on. And I went on to have another equally volatile relationship for 5 years afterwards. So like 20 years of which you could look down on and look and think was quite horrific to some extent. So I ended up having a long journey with Rise and that kind of stuff.
What's
But
Rise?
the domestic violence charity
Oh, right,
in
okay.
Brighton. I don't know, they're probably nationwide actually, but a lot of help through them at the instigation of social services. And to start with, all the instigation from social services was because of my ex's behaviour. But in the end, we ended up very much with social services in our lives because of me, you know. And that's where this journey led me to having the police, social workers come into my house and remove 3 of my daughters.
God, that must be horrific.
From my care, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Was it justified?
Yes, it was justified, but what went on through that period, I don't believe was handled in an honest way. I believe that that particular social worker was trying to push my buttons to make me relapse. I don't know. It is very much my own fault why I ended up in that situation, because I'd already been on the recovery journey for 2 years.
Wow.
So this happened to me 2 years into my recovery journey.
That's surprising.
Because funnily enough, I could stop. I went to the local drug and alcohol services. Someone took me when I desperately begged for help. This was just after my 40th birthday, and I didn't even know what was going on. I called up a couple of people to ask for help to pay for me to go in somewhere because I knew I was very unsafe. You know, by this time I'd already had about 7 intentional overdoses.
How?
Drinking and cocaine, lots of tablets. So I'd been hospitalised 7 times, and I'd had unintentional overdoses, which almost killed me a few times. And then, going to hospital, what person would end up in hospital, because some of these were in my recovery journey, already know that I'm trying to be in recovery from alcohol and substance misuse, end up with another overdose attempt in hospital, then I come out of hospital, and then what do? I'm probably all right for a few hours. I might even be all right for 24 hours, maybe. But, like, if you had a peanut allergy, you wouldn't come out of hospital, then within a few hours to 24 hours, go to the shops and buy 2 massive sacks of peanuts and have them again.
No.
You just wouldn't. But that's what alcoholism is. I have an illness that tells me I don't have it. I have an illness that tells me it will be okay. I also have an illness in my sober mind, which is twisted, peculiar thinking, which also, not only does it lie to me, but for me, without finding a spiritual program, which I didn't have back then, if I can't replace my solution, which was the alcohol and those substances, I'll drink again.
Yeah.
And for me, that happens really quickly. It makes no sense. So, into my recovery journey, I knew we were being made homeless, and, the kids were taken. I can just remember it all being like in slow motion, and I just knew there was nothing I could do. I just had to sit there and let them do what they were doing, and what went on in the few months after that wasn't particularly great. But I still, at that point, was arguing, fighting against the system, because there were things that, weren't that they'd done that weren't great. But anyway, regardless of all of that, I still found myself with alcohol in my hands, not in the house. I'd taken it elsewhere a couple of times, and that's when it really, really hit home to me. What I would do anything for my kids, and they've been taken. I want them back, and I was finding myself just, what the fuck? Sorry,
you can say whatever you want.
And and that's when I realised, because I had gone.
Was that your rock bottom, when you just thought, what the fuck is going on?
The rock bottom came in because most of those next few months were sober, so there was only I think 4 or 5 occasions where I ended up, with alcohol. So they're like one nights. I didn't go into complete benders. But that doesn't matter, you see. It doesn't matter whether it's a one night, doesn't matter whether it's this, doesn't matter whether it's that. But I remember finding myself sitting on my bed. I just didn't know how to get these kids back. Couldn't stop. And so I got all the tablets out. I was emptying all the tablets out on my bed. And I just sat there and I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I am so good at finding solutions, and that is one of my gifts, but it's one of my downfalls at the same time. It's why I'm in the Sister Fellowship of AA. And I was sat on the bed that day and I just thought, I can't see a way out of this. I don't know how to not. And my children had, who also didn't give up on me, they'd always gone on at me, and nobody was going on at my ex-husband. No one was going on at him at all. And I got so resentful around why everyone wanted me to stop taking away the thing that I felt I needed. And I remember them saying to them one day, why are you on at me? Why aren't you on at him? And they said to me, Mum, you'll do it. You will do this for us.
Yeah.
You will.
Lovely.
Yeah.
They gave you that bit of extra push.
Yeah. They were like, you will do this for us. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, I would.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
But that day, I thought, it's broken me. I can't. I've tried everything, and it's just like, I just couldn't. And I remember what they said, and I didn't take, obviously I'm here, I didn't take those pills, and I got up and I went running back to a fellowship meeting because I hadn't done what was suggested. We say in the fellowship, keep coming back. I did go back, but I would only go back in that 2.5 year period. I would only go back off the back of a consequence. I would go and listen. I would not connect with anybody. I would just listen. I didn't share or open my mouth in a fellowship meeting. I couldn't talk. I would not want to pass my numbers over. I made myself very unapproachable, and I thought that maybe I might catch some recovery from the person next to me. Well, I didn't. I caught social services. And so I ran to a meeting, and it was like, is it odd or is it God or the universe or whatever? But that meeting had a man sharing. And up until this point, I hadn't believed anyone in a meeting, a fellowship meeting. If someone said they were even anything from a couple of months to like 20 years, it didn't matter what it was. Definitely 6 months plus. Probably not even 6 months. If they were sharing that they because it's abstinent based, saying that they had been clean and sober for these periods of time, and I was just looking, thinking, you're just lying. There is no way these people come here and have got these periods of time without anything. I just couldn't fathom that at all, and I really thought people were lying. Right up until that point where this guy was doing a chair, and it was as if he was telling my story, and he was admitting things in that chair about his ex-wife, about him being violent, and these things that he'd done. And I just couldn't understand how a man could sit there in a busy room and honestly share about these things that he'd done. I just was like, oh my God. And the penny dropped that day that this...
It's a program of honesty.
Yes. And I thought... They're telling the truth.
Scary though, there's some of the stuff you hear, isn't it?
Oh my God. And so that day I broke down in tears, and it took me about 5 goes to share, but I managed to share that day. And I did manage to walk out of the room with the sponsor.
Yeah.
I went and had a can of Coke with her around the corner, and this woman, didn't have any children. She was younger than me. I was her... I think I was her second sponsee, but the first one that we ended up, going through the work. And she was only 5.5 months.
Wow.
Herself.
Jeez.
And we went on a journey. And oh my God, it was just incredible. She told me to get on my knees and pray. Well, by that point, I would have prayed over a bit of poo on the floor. Just wanted my kids back.
You had the gift of desperation.
Yes, I had that gift. And I... get on my knees and pray. All she wanted me to say at that stage was thank God, universe. I call my higher power Mr. Nobody, because I don't know whether I'm praying to nobody or whether I'm praying to some God.
But you
I
acknowledge it's
don't
there.
care.
And it
I
cares for you.
really don't care.
Yeah.
From starting to do that to this day, I had one more drink after that, but because I hadn't been actually doing everything she told me to do. But from that day, my life started to change. And my higher power presented itself to me because these things started to happen. Not just big things like getting my children back, but little things.
Little small positive
like,
steps.
is it odd or is it God?
I like that saying.
Yeah. So, and it's like, so I don't really care if it's a God or if it's nobody. Me doing the process it brought my children home.
Yeah.
And it just, when I wasn't doing that, my life just got worse. Since I've started doing it, it started to miraculously improve. So I don't question it. And you know, I am good at maths. So I can work out on my own little thing that it doesn't take too much to work out that, you know, in my own life, it got better when I did it. And when I didn't, it was terrible.
Yeah.
So
it's easy calculation. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's really good. You said quite a lot of stuff today that's interesting and I could relate to as well, especially when you're talking about the thinking part of it. Because I've forgotten how you put it, but you were saying it was
peculiar, twisted.
Yeah, that was like, wow. I think, God, I sometimes have those moments, episodes. And so, yeah, that brings us quite up to date, doesn't it? With how you got into recovery and you've managed to kind of stay in the whole time since then.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you sponsor people yourself?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I've been through my steps 3 times. People don't have to do that, but for me, that has been my journey. And it has. I thought that taking my alcohol and drugs was going to render me. So at the beginning, when I was 14, I decided that I had to admit to my children that I needed to do something. And for me, that was a very difficult thing to do, because I thought the moment I say it out loud,
You're
I'm going to
given the green
have
light.
to do it. And but I honestly thought back in 2017 that I would be able to do it for them, and I would have a really boring life, but I would be able to do it for my 4 girls, because well, we all love our children. Parents do. No parent doesn't love their children, do they? And I thought that was going to be it. And how wrong I was, because I found I could not do it on my own. No, I couldn't. And my life isn't boring. I have had the most incredible journey. The incredible journey, you know, those 2 things which were my whole world, and I didn't think I could live without them, have turned out to be such a small thing.
Yeah.
Because without those 2 things, I can do anything I want to do.
Yeah.
And and that can be just small stuff, because I became so desperately ill with my mental health, because I'm dual diagnosis. I've been on a journey with that, being diagnosed with complex PTSD, and also they think I've got ADHD and my alcoholism, and addiction. It all mixes in. It's all a recovery that we do simultaneously. But through getting a handle on all of these things, it's just, just being able to get out of bed and going out the front door. Like, the expectations I could put on myself were so huge that sometimes just getting up, getting dressed, doing your hair, coming out, that's enough.
Yeah.
But then on other days, coming here, sitting with you, the testament of recovery is I couldn't even share in a meeting for 2.5 years. But you take me out of a meeting, I don't shut up. But if you put me in a meeting, zip, nothing would come out. And I remember hearing people shouting, I'm never doing that. But because of it, I can show up today. I can show up to talk to you. I can show up to do chairs. I never thought I'd be able to sit and just be honest.
Yeah.
And I never thought I was a dishonest person. Particularly a dishonest person. And I blamed other people for so much. But what I've learned in recovery is the person that has lied to me the most is myself.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And I didn't even know I was doing it. I didn't know how to be honest with myself.
Well, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's an inside job. It's a strange kind of disease, isn't it? It's not like if you've got a poorly arm or a poorly leg, you brace it. When it's like a psychosomatic illness, you think, oh, I'm fine. But everyone else go, you're not fine. You're a state. You're mentally all over the place. And you want to use as well. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying but in your mind, you're like, well, what's the problem?
Well, I have an illness that tells me I don't have it.
Yeah.
So when you're in the grips of alcoholism and addiction and your head is telling you there is nothing wrong with you, it's the other some people can get those blind spots, and I love hearing it when you hear stories in the rooms that people come in, they haven't lost the marriage and the the cars and the jobs and the this, and there are some people that very much do that. They come in, they hear the message in the first meeting,
Bastards.
They get a sponsor and they do their steps, and that does happen. It wasn't my story.
It wasn't my story.
No, I had to be beaten, smashed to pieces to actually be able to, and I think for me, I realise I was not born with any humility, absolutely none. And if there was a chemical solution for Lynne to have some humility, I'd need at least about 20 times the dose. Give me 20 of those, please, just to be on the safe side, because I don't do things normally. I can smash the hell out of anything, absolutely anything. I mean, like biscuits. Who can eat one biscuit and not eat the rest of the packet? Cake. Things like that. It's just, and I never realised these other little bits in my behaviour that it is all down to like addiction and this crazy thinking. And it's the sober me that decides to relapse. It's the sober me that after my children were taken away that I think it's a great idea to go and have a glass of wine. One glass of wine will be okay because it'll relax me because I'm going through such a stressful time. No one's going to find out. Luckily, social services didn't. But it'll all be all right. And then it's not. It's the next day, and I haven't been to bed, and I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm not in my. What on earth is that all about?
Nightmares.
It's it's very strong and powerful. But I am so grateful for my recovery journey because that is not my life today. No. Just to wake up in the morning clean and sober with no obsession to drink and use. That's the beauty. That is the magic that we get. Wow. That is the magic it can bring. And for me, when I live life as a dry drunk, my obsession is either obsessing over not drinking and using, or I'm drinking and using, or I'm obsessing about not doing it, and then I relapse, then I'm drinking and using, then I've got the guilt and the shame, and it's just so it goes on, and so it goes on, and so it goes on. And I definitely suffer with the phenomenon of craving. As soon as I put one drink or drug inside me, it sets off this phenomena where, some people, they can get a bottle of wine and they have a glass of wine, and then they can have another glass of wine. They feel all nice and relaxed, and then they put the wine back in the fridge.
Or have
and then
have
they
a
go
line
to
and
bed.
put the packet away till next weekend.
Who does things like that? I put a glass of wine to me. I would never have one either. I never saw the point in having one. I'd always tell myself, I'll just have two, because I don't drink for the taste. Even though a lot of my life I drank nice alcohol, but I wasn't ever drinking for it, and definitely in the end, certainly wasn't drinking. Bottle of 3 Hills, is it, that disgusting wine out the bottle? Like, that's not glamorous. It's not glamorous at all. But my mind's still thinking that it is. It is, and it will stay like that. It's so not. And it sets off that craving where I'm off and running. It lights me up like a firework. They don't want to pick up the phone. Then what's going to happen? And one of my last drinks, because I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I just thought I needed to sort my cocaine addiction out. But I could see that it always started with a drink, and then I'm on the phone. So I went out one night and thought, I'll just drink. And all I remember having was a couple of glasses of rosé, because I didn't normally drink rosé. So it'll be okay to have rosé. And I remember the 2 glasses of rosé, and that night ended up with, I say children, they were grown, older teenagers by this point. finding me outside the house at 2:00 in the morning asleep under a car. You know, they're then, my daughter's boyfriend is then like trying to get me up the steps in. I'm then throwing up over my kitchen, like out of the house, down the steps, whilst wetting myself.
Lovely.
And I wake up in bed the next day with a sick bowl, you know, and then my head tells me I'm not really an alcoholic. Yet that was one of like leading up to the end. Like, but that's what my head can say. But part of my, some strange things happened for me though in those early 2.5 years when I was supposed to be trying to get into recovery, and I was. I then started to we were being made homeless and going through that journey, and social services couldn't help in the end. So they were telling me that we were going to be housed in Eastbourne, that the kids were going to come with me. And I literally, when they delivered the news one day that they just couldn't help for us to stay in Brighton, and we were going to be moved away from everything we knew, I literally drank, used a lot, completely snapped, and then took a huge overdose. I thought, well, I've never managed to kill myself so far. So I, peculiar twist thinking, thought, I know what I'll do. I'll go down to the pier and I'll jump off the pier just to make it work properly. And because I actually got married on the pier. So I thought,
This is after you've taken all that stuff.
And I walked all the way from my house in Preston Park. Did stop off on the way to speak to a guy who was desperately, who was, I think, possibly an alcoholic, sitting on a step drinking Stella, who was trying to talk me out of it. And I remember saying to him, well, you know, I'm not completely stupid. If it's not high tide, I won't jump. And then off I marched. So obviously, I had put a little bit of thought into there. Maybe I don't really want to die. And off I went down there. Made my final goodbyes, and not too self-seeking that. Just let everyone know you're about to do it, you know.
Turn them on the way.
Throw phone in water, and threw myself off. And it was a quite a rough day, the sea, and this was like a Wednesday lunchtime. Coming up to it, actually, it was in August. And I ended up swimming in the end, and I ended up getting in. And it was like, I remember asking some English people to help me use their phone, and they all said no. And then I asked this lady with a burqa. I was probably looking worse for wear. I ended up asking a lady with this like burqa. She couldn't even speak English. She gave me her phone in a right state to phone. And then they found me, and I obviously got taken to hospital by police officers. But from doing that, like the housing people, man, every time I went down there, I had a new disaster that was going on. He felt really sorry for me. And we managed to get housed in Brighton.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
Literally, we managed to bypass the emergency accommodation, and we got housed. I didn't know any of this was actually going to happen. And we went into temporary accommodation, and this is where the whole charity journey started. I was so ill, and I remember me and the girls were unpacking boxes one day, and we'd gone out, and it was a cold night. There's a woman sitting on the street, and we had loads of duvets, which you accumulate with teenagers. And I said to the girls, should we just go out and give some duvets out? And they were like, yeah. So we went and got some duvets, went out, gave this woman a duvet, gave this other guy a duvet. And I don't even know what happened, but from that one action, Night Support exists today, and it's a charity.
I remember it went poof, Night Support.
It was crazy, and I very much used that to start with.
That was a cold winter, I remember, when you started, wasn't it?
And the weird thing is that it went from there to like posting on social media. So that's where the recruitment, the marketing skill came in, and people were delivering stuff, and I was so I basically distracted, found myself some work to do, and was running around trying to help everyone else. So again, was telling myself, there's not really anything wrong with me. There's not anything wrong with me. I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right. So I'm creating that same dopamine in my head from helping others, still not really understanding I needed to actually fix myself because I was desperately broken. But that first winter, because I started to, I remember the Ladies Mile.
Because I had to go with you, because you posted in the
Did I?
Brighton Fellowship Massive. Do you remember? And I just started in. I was like, you can't post
yes,
that here.
we did, and we fell out, but then we
Michelin?
didn't. I started posting stuff everywhere and doing this, doing that, and doing the next. And
The ladies' mile, yeah.
Yeah, someone told me to go in there and ask them if they'd collect the stuff because things were being left outside houses and stuff. And I wandered into that pub that day. Like, I'm not even supposed to be drinking.
Shit.
I hadn't drunk in that pub anyway. Probably just as well because she would have said no. She'd say, you know. Yeah, because a couple of ladies on a Patreon group had said, go in there and ask her. Yeah. And I went wandering. My anxiety levels were just through the roof. Went in there and I can't remember what I said to her. She just went, yes. And I thought, what? You will?
Yeah.
And so they were our first donation site. And if she'd said no that day, Gail, there wouldn't be a night sport.
Really?
Because I wouldn't have then gone on to
carry on.
I wouldn't have signed up about 22 donations like it's all around Sussex.
Is that places where people can take stuff? Oh, right. Okay.
We don't. The charity doesn't have that many now, but because lockdown put paid to that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not an addict either. So all the nights when I couldn't sleep, I was doing all this, and this is it. It wasn't me. That was these ideas. It came from up there because I was running around like a mad thing until Christmas, and then I stopped posting on social media. We probably got up to about 10 donation sites by then. It's a beauty of addiction, and then like the pubs kept messaging me saying we've got stuff, and I'm thinking, well, I haven't really planned to do this anymore, and because I felt bad, I kept going to get this stuff. Then they kept saying they had stuff. And I was thinking, hold on a minute. I'm not even putting anything in other than responding to what was going on. And I could feel something pulling me along. So when I did, in the end, start learning about this higher power stuff, I knew that I'd felt this pull back there. And like the whole charity journey and how it is, you know, it's got nothing to do with me. It's a God-given thing.
But you manifested it.
Well, it's just through some peculiar twisted thinking. If I planned it, it wouldn't have worked. It's like it was so not planned. It was from reaction to reaction to reaction to reaction to reaction to. I don't even know where this stuff came from.
But you
and
helped a lot of
so
people.
many people. Well, I haven't. It's basically, and the way I saw it start with was like asking on community groups, and then the local community like dropping stuff off or dropping stuff to the local pubs that they don't need. And so, like growing up in Burgess Hill, not Burgess, what am I talking about?
Plumpton Green, sorry, get it right.
I can always remember because I grew up, you know, nice house in a village, and we didn't do like what other people class as normal, like going to McDonald's. We're always doing nature stuff and running around. So, like, I didn't really even understand that homeless people existed until quite a lot later in life. And I think I was in Brighton with my friend, and I was, what's that person doing? So they're homeless. I remember thinking, what do you mean homeless? Like, everyone's got a home, haven't they? But no, I was horrified. And that's always been with me all through my life. So, the model of like living in a village where we could post, we need this, and then somebody in like Plumpton could take it to the local pub. We don't have Plumpton as a donation site at the moment, so no one takes it to the local pub at the moment. But could take it and then know that it's going to Brighton and it will end up on, say, Gary's feet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
It is, isn't it?
It's just the exchange of energies.
Positive giving, isn't it?
So social media can be quite... can be used for what anyone wants to use it for. And in a lot of my meltdowns, I would use social media to say how terrible my ex-husband was and look at the world and poor me. But it can be used for positive, you know. And so I would think, put a post on and see what turns up. Put a post on, and throughout the journey, people appeared. You know, I did have more mental health breakdowns, but people would take over, run, then I'd come back. Then I'd go off and other people. It's just, it's the wider community from trustees that arrived and ones that have gone for different parts of the journey, just to people in the community that will donate a deodorant to a pub. That'll end up, you know, a £1 deodorant can make somebody's day.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, a pair of socks. Yeah. That and the love that goes into it, the love that the charity gives and the team give, you know, at the Peace Statue every Sunday.
Oh, really? I didn't realise
every single Sunday without fail from 6 o'clock. Night support. Dean Relief, which is a wonderful man, Shebek, who ended up inviting us to be there on Sundays, because in the early days I was running around with bin bags in my car, emptying them out. We were doing both ends, You know, it was mad back then because it was a free for all. You know, I would just empty the stuff out on the floor. Anyone could have whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
You know, obviously the ladies, Paula and Gemma, that then came to help me. You know, me and ADHD. I'm not very organised, so you know they really polished it up into something really special.
You got a good
really
team, haven't you, that run it?
Wonderful.
Because you couldn't do it all on your own.
Wonderful, and particularly Gemma, Paula, Gemma's husband John, and Tom, who's our longest-standing trustee. You know, these people, they've given up their lives. We've laughed, cried. You know, I mean, we get some wonderful donations, but then you'll get people donating dirty underwear,
Really?
like lap dancing stuff, ball gowns. You know, the public have really, like one football boot that's got holes and mud all over it. You know, the public have really, really good intentions. But some charities, not just us, can be used as a little bit of a dumping site. And, you know, for our volunteers who do, we're pretty much what we are. We were 100% volunteer run until maybe 18 months ago. You know, totally run by people giving up their time. No one's paid. And even now, very small amounts are paid to two people who probably have done
loads more work than they pay for.
50 hours a week, maybe more, especially around Christmas time. All of us.
I know you do
Not
Christmas
me
Day,
now.
Boxing Day.
My house on the first two Christmases, because we didn't have premises for a long time, bottom to the roof.
Really?
Another lady, Helen, who helped, and Mel in the early days. Yeah, their houses were full, literally. The team, we've had vans donated, cars donated. We ran without even having any monetary donations for 2 years.
Jeez.
On nothing, completely nothing, just goodwill of people and the public. Totally grassroots, recycling things that people didn't need. And we see, I think, in the region of about 120 people week in, week out now at the Peace Statue every Sunday.
And what do they get on a Sunday?
So on a Sunday, they get Dean Relief supply hot food for that evening, plus other bits that they get donated from places like Taj, and can't think of all the different places.
So there's lots of places help out.
Shebeck, and he has actually a different charity. This isn't actually what his charity does. He just does this as an extra. His charity is about helping children in Bangladesh, and he does something else in Turkey. Sorry, Shebeck, I can't remember all the stuff you do, but he's the most wonderful man that has been doing outreach at the Peace Statue for I think 13 years.
Jeez.
Every single Sunday. The only Sundays he's missed was when we had to lock down at the beginning of COVID, and then when he got COVID and almost died. Jesus. Other than that, that man is there. Never not there.
Heroes.
Always there. He is an absolute phenomenal human being. There's another man, Trevor, who was volunteering or doing it through Purple People Bank Food Kitchen. There was Trevor doing it. And then he stopped doing it through them, but still turns up himself, and he's not very well himself. And he's done that for 12 years and brings his own things. And then Colin took over from Purple People Kitchen, and they bring their own food. They bring stuff donated from Marks and Spencer's, Greg's, Gail's Bakery, and there's other businesses that have donated. So there's stacks of fruit, bread, cakes, and like sausage. There's just loads of stuff, like smoothies and milk and water and just loads of stuff. So that's them. And then we've got night support that started off with me with carrier bags, but now is set up properly, where we give out all toiletries like shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, wet wipes, deodorant, conditioner, shampoo, shaving stuff, not razors, just for, you know. Then we do sleeping bags, clothes, jeans, jumpers, coats, bivvy bags. I won't mention tents. We do, and then we also do, or the team do, you know, if somebody needs something, they'll ask if we've been asked for fishing rods before. We've been asked for bikes, although we don't really do that now. So just anything anyone wants or needs that could potentially help them, we have tried to source for people.
So someone might say to you, I really need a new overcoat.
Or if they've got an interview, they need to go for a job interview, or we try and help with anything. The team are fantastic. And like you'd ask on social media, and lo and behold, it turns up like things like tarpaulin to go over tents. Just anything.
What's your thoughts on tents for the homeless and them being ripped down?
There's two ways of looking at it. I mean, we don't really supply them. Really
no, but what's your thoughts? Because I know the government in parts
so
of London,
Brighton
they rip
Council,
them down.
they don't like it. And I've learnt from some of my other volunteering role, other places, why, because I did some training in what to do in overdose scenarios. But there's two things around them. So, you know, for a homeless person, it is someone's home.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not camping. Homeless people are not camping.
They're living there.
It's someone's home.
Yeah.
Not going on a jolly here.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I don't know what the general rules are now, but the last time I knew what the rules were, you're not allowed to. And I think Brighton Council were like serving notices. So at one point in my time, it was that they would just come along and just take everyone's home, all their stuff. So the person's gone off, maybe to a day centre, comes back, they've got nothing.
The few clothes
so
they
back
had,
in the early days, I'd then be running around like Miss Mother Teresa, do-gooding, supplying all that stuff when it was just me. But the things did improve where then notices were being put on. So somebody did have the opportunity to know that you're being moved. Yeah. They're not very great things. I think why sometimes they can say that they're not particularly great from the drug point of view is that people can then use in the tents. And if they go over, they can die.
That's true.
And then nobody knows that somebody could be in there dead. So that's not particularly nice.
No.
And I have seen another incident where somebody from Outreach asked me to come down to a tent on Brighton Beach. Oh, this was awful. And I went down there with Clint, who had been jumped on and somebody had jumped on some men had jumped on his tent, broken all his ribs. He'd managed to come down to Outreach for some things. This was back in the day when we weren't a charity, so I did give him a lift. We do things like that. Anyway, down to this tent, and a heavily pregnant lady came out of tent with another man. You know, just horrific to see the conditions that, you know. And I'm not saying that the services were at fault for that, because sometimes people can choose to live in certain ways. I don't know the story behind that one. I do know how it ended, and it wasn't particularly nice. So I think from a point of view of visibility, people are more noticed when they're in tents, and I've known situations for them to become housed. I mean, me personally, I mean, I think from the charity's perspective, it's like the charity does want to help. And you know, at the end of the day, a tent isn't a home for someone. Even though it is, it's not. No. I mean, I cannot wait for the day when there is no need for any homeless charities, for no one. And it's predominantly single male men in this country. I went recently with somebody that had been in a rehab and they've relapsed, because these things can happen. Yeah, of course. But when someone relapses in a rehab, they're then classed as making yourself homeless. So.
Oh, right, really?
Yeah, intentionally homeless. And so I went down to the council, and I actually didn't realise this, that it is legal to be homeless.
It's illegal?
It's legal.
Oh, right.
You can be. And from Brighton Council's point of view, I can see why we have. It's distressing why we have the local link, because if somebody's doesn't have a local link to Brighton, the council don't have a responsibility to
Yeah,
house.
you can't just pop down here.
So that's very sad for people that have had to like flee domestic violence situations or for whatever reason they've come here to get away from something, and then you to be told you've got to go back there to be housed. Well, I can totally understand why people.
Your husband's probably waiting for you. At
Yes,
the door.
why you desperately can't.
Yeah.
But from the other side of it, I can see it from Brighton Council's point of view. In lockdown, when lockdown hit, I think in the January, the street count had been that we had I think it was 82 or 83 street homeless, which I always just think these numbers are just like not right. And when lockdown hit and the government lifted the local link and just said, house everyone, I think it was after about 6 or 7 months, I heard that, or saw some statistics, don't quote me on this because this is just from what I remember, that about 750 or 800 people had been housed at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. And about 150 had been sent over to Eastbourne. Three people.
That way. Yeah.
And 3 people I heard very soon died, 2 overdoses or something. But anyway, it's a long-term, very difficult thing. And I can't wait till there's nothing for anyone to do at night support.
Will that happen? Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, so what's next for you then, Lynn? Obviously,
So for me, today I don't think I'm going to pick up a drink or a drug.
That's good news.
I'm going to keep working my programme a day at a time. On the 25th of July, I don't know if celebrate's the right word, but I was 5 years clean and sober.
Well done.
And I found that a hell one to come up to.
Wow.
And it's like, I don't say that because it's a 24-hour programme and the world record for recovery is 24 hours.
Isn't it?
We all have the same 24 hours.
Yeah.
But to do 5 years, a day at a time, in a row for my children,
wow,
it means the world. I mean, those living amends where I don't think, well, I know this, I won't ever get 100% of their trust back. I won't do that. But I think each day is a living amends where I earn more respect from my children. And that is magic.
What I find is a challenge, though, is because I've got a teenager and a 20-year-old now, and, they know the lifestyle I've lived before. And, of course, now they're experiencing the peer groups and all of that stuff. And it's like, it's so difficult because you want to grab them and shake them and say, don't fucking do that. But you've done it yourself, and they're like, well, you've done it. And it's so difficult. It's so, difficult to watch them experimenting and going down different routes. And you just have to remember people, places and things we have no control of, we're powerless over.
Yeah, the mental health journey I had and I have been through in recent years with the children mental health services has been pretty horrific. And I realise now I have made myself quite ill in sobriety over trying to control and trying to find a solution through what we have on offer today, which is not a great deal for children that have more complex needs. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, I am powerless. I'm not only powerless over myself, I'm powerless over everyone else. And it has been pointed out to me that I might have a little people-fixing addiction, which I'm currently now doing my steps in another fellowship.
Wow.
And then when I sat down, I thought, oh my God, well, there's a thing called night support. So that might be a little sign that Lynn might have this little, which I'm pleased that night support has come of it. But so my journey, my onward journey is, to most definitely stay clean and sober. I've been on in the last 8 months, a bit of a cancer journey, which started on my 42nd birthday, going to the doctors about a teeny little thing that I didn't think was anything particularly to worry about. And like the old me wouldn't have even bothered. And that kind of took off into realms of, I think it's ever simple. I think it's ever simple. And thankfully Monday I was diagnosed with very rare form of cancer on Monday, but it's not life-threatening.
Thank heavens.
So, but it's difficult because when these things come up, it can make life feel very difficult, especially when you can't then go and do what other people might do and think, oh, I'll just have a glass of wine to relax, or just do this. You know, we have to flow through.
Have that luxury.
Don't have that luxury, because I have to remember, I break out in hospital visits and handcuffs when I have a drink, so it's not particularly great for me. But in recent months, in the last couple of years, I've gone more of a spiritual path. Well, obviously I do a spiritual path for my recovery, but we are taught very much to like enlarge on that process. And the more I've learned, I've realised the less I actually need to know. And I need to remain teachable, because the moment I think Lynne Knight jumps back into charge, which happens on a daily basis, actually, this whole thing, I pray to have my defects removed and they just get taken away, that's it. Not in my case.
Back again the next day.
I just find that God gives me what I need, or the universe. I get lots of lessons to work on having those things removed. So I've been given quite a lot of practice, but I've gone through some different things with like Reiki attunement and Paloa, and it looks like I'm starting. I think I'm going to go and volunteer for Claire Kennedy of Kennedy Street.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, who's been a massive part of my journey. I hope once this the cancer surgeries heal up, that I can go back and do some fundraising for night support. And
because it fires you up when you talk about it. You love doing that.
Yeah. It's more about the message as well, because I believe you shouldn't have to be. I mean, yes, you know, drinking, using, addiction. You know, we have veterans on our streets that, you know, it's PTSD. People are human beings. We don't all have to go into recovery if we don't want to. I'm a grown woman. If I want to go to the off license now and buy 5 bottles of vodka and then get on the phone and, you know, and order something, I can. But, you know, I now understand the word consequence. I thought, I never understood that all this stuff over here, like the bad stuff, had anything to do with my behaviour. Didn't understand what the word boundary was. I thought breaking a boundary was not doing what my dad had told me to do. So I've had to learn that in recovery. I've had to learn that this does match, consequences do actually match my actions. I've come to learn that I didn't just have the right, I say boundaries, but you know, I just kept repeating the same thing, thinking something would change.
Which is the definition of insanity.
Sanity, yes,
isn't it?
yes, because but I seem to be on this new path, so I definitely want to, you know, as my health allows me, to go and give back to Claire's charity and do more for night support, definitely, because the whole homeless situation is not going away. And just because somebody is has an issue with their mental health or their drinking and using does not mean they don't deserve a home. And like, what if by the time somebody ends up homeless on the streets, you know, chances are that they probably are, you know, the family maybe not talking to. It's quite often single men. It could even be a man that he hasn't maybe done anything wrong. His wife or his girlfriend could have had an affair. Yet
he doesn't want to go home.
The man has to go generally, because the girl gets to stay with the. I'm not saying that in all cases, but you know, and then man's on the street. Man doesn't want to ask for help. Man thinks so. Even if they didn't have a massive problem before they got there. I think it's about 6 weeks of it, and it's Josh, you know, trying to give so giving somebody some love, making somebody feel appreciated, can trigger somebody to do more than you expect. When people need to go into the housing office, or they need to go here, or they need to go to try and do something to create life change. Well, just to have a clean shirt on your back and maybe some kind words on a Sunday night, you know, to make you feel loved. And of all the stuff that gets given on a Sunday night, I think one of the most beautiful things that gets given is that you can just stand and give someone time to just have a moan if they want to, when they might not have had anybody to talk to
all week.
And sitting on the streets, you can be pretty invisible.
People
walking past all this, and it doesn't really instill, you know, money begging for whether it's food or whatever it might be for, it's like it doesn't really instill much self-worth into somebody. So I definitely want to continue with that side of it. And and some other like healing, spiritual healing, channeling.
Sounds like you're on quite a journey of self-discovery.
I've got more ideas on social. I've got these ideas building on possibly starting up, not a charity, probably a not-for-profit, to potentially maybe offer like sound bath therapy, energy healing to maybe in the rehabs, maybe like for children that are living in supported accommodation. And I had a conversation with a lady last week randomly, and she said, yeah, that's a great idea. And she said, and what about for the charity workers? And I thought, wow, because when I first started, I was desperately sick. And when people first started coming to volunteer with night support and up to now, I found this isn't all volunteers, but a lot of people that want to give back have got their own health issues, they've had their own trauma, and they will give back even when they're not very well themselves. So I think maybe, you never know, in the universe, maybe to develop something that would give back to people who do so much to help others.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I can see you fired up about that, so that's good.
Who knows?
I'm sure you'll do it.
Who knows?
Have you got any final kind of words of encouragement? Maybe someone who's out there listening to you and being inspired by you and just not knowing what to do to kind of get out of their position?
So words of encouragement, I would say, just ask for some help. Just ask for help. Reach out and ask for help. I was desperately embarrassed to admit, I was an alcoholic or an addict or whatever, this terminology is. I was so embarrassed. But I am so proud to sit here today and say I am an alcoholic that's in recovery. Getting into recovery, if you go to some meetings, you don't have to talk to start with. I would suggest you talk a bit quicker than I did. Either get yourself a sponsor. It doesn't even matter how you do it. We all have different pathways, different stuff, but just keep coming back, whatever that might be for you. Just keep coming back, because the miracle, it will happen. Just don't give up. And it has been the answer, and the solution is so simple.
You could almost miss it.
I made it so complicated, and but it is simple. I'm not going to say it's easy. I did not feel like any of it was easy. I didn't. But when I just had that gift of desperation, and I tried something new, because I was very good at just going round and round in circles, very much round and round in circles. But when I tried to do something a different way, shown to me by people who had already walked this path before me.
When you say do something, do you mean the work?
Yes. And I think one of the mistakes I made was I took advice of people that didn't have a solution.
Right.
So I took advice from people who didn't have any long-term sobriety, but they validated, oh yeah, this doesn't work or that doesn't work. And I failed to see or to go and ask people that had, say, 6 months or a year plus sobriety. I didn't ask people like that because it kind of suited me, because I didn't really want to do that stuff. But it is an action. So I had to be honest, open-minded and willing. I was a bit more honest, open-minded and willing to start with. But, I could memorise all the stuff that's been taught to me. I can intellectualise it. I can go off to try and prove whether God exists or doesn't, or the universe. I can do all of that. I've never met somebody that's stupid that can live with alcoholism addiction. We're above intelligence people. We lead double masked lives, and to carry that stuff off. You know, it doesn't matter whether you've got a great job or no job, you're above intelligence to be able to do this stuff. But when I put the action in daily, my life changed and got better.
That's the magic word, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like going to the gym.
I've got to do it.
Sitting in the hot tub, but you're not going to get fit. You've got to break a sweat.
So there's so many people that need recovery, but you've really got to want it. And if you want it and you do it, you can have it.
You can have it, yeah.
And
What a great
miracles,
message.
magic take place.
Yeah.
They really do. It's fantastic.
Well, it's great to see you and, you know, to hear you say your truth. And, you know, I really loved hearing that. And I've got a lot of identification. I'm sure a lot of people who watch the show will also feel the same. So thank you so much. I normally come around and give you a hug, but I know you're slightly incapacitated.
Yes.
So I'll just say thank you so much.
You.
Really appreciate it.
Coming
Lynne.
back.
Thank you, darling. Cheers, guys. Thanks to the crew, and we appreciate you coming down.